Good afternoon, Christina.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
Good, good, good,
Hey,
good.
for old time's sake, what are you baking these days?
Ooh, hey, I was going to ask you the same.
No, you were not.
I totally
No.
was. I would totally was. I'm like, we haven't done that in a long time, and I kind of miss hearing what you've been baking. And
I
I
think
see
that's
what you're baking,
hilarious.
but yeah.
That's
So
true.
I actually, so my hubby and I had decided, I guess he travels a fair bit, right?
Yes.
So the last thing he wants to do when he comes home from a trip is go out for dinner, right?
Right.
So we're doing like stay in date night kind of thing.
Nice.
So for the last one we did, and this is when I can like really kind of do something really cool and special and that kind of stuff. So I actually made a beef Wellington, and for dessert, we had lemon souffle. Yeah.
Well done.
And everything all worked out well. The only thing, so yeah, so I just did a real traditional sort of beef Wellington.
Yeah,
So got a really nice cut of beef tenderloin, which cost me an arm and a leg,
I
about the
bet.
same as, but obviously a whole lot less expensive than going out for a beef Wellington dinner.
And probably less expensive than eggs and butter right now. Let's be real.
That's, you're not wrong.
Probably true, right?
You're
Yeah.
not wrong there. So anyway, so I got a nice piece of tenderloin steak, or like a little roast,
Yeah.
and then obviously did a the mushroom duxelle.
Dixelle, yeah.
Duxelle, is that how you
Yeah,
pronounce it? Yeah.
I
So
think
did
so.
that up with some shallots and a little bit of sherry. Again, kept it kind of traditional. Instead of prosciutto, I actually picked up some Serrano ham, which was like a little less fatty.
Mhm.
And I really love Serrano ham. So it's a kind of similar, but it's got just a slightly different flavor. So I did that, and of course made some crepes and wrapped it all up and covered it with some puff pastry. Now, the only
Wow.
thing that I would have changed is I probably would have had a little bit more puff pastry. I just had like a bit that I had left
Leftover.
over.
Yeah.
And so I just used that thinking it was going to be enough because it wasn't a really big roast, but by the time it's all wrapped up and bundled
Mhm.
in something, I'm like having to roll it out a little extra thin. So that's the
Yeah.
only thing I would say. I would probably want to do a little bit more of the puff
Yeah.
pastry. But it turned out so well. It was perfectly cooked. It was brilliant. So nice. And then the lemon souffle. I've done this before. It's one of Erwin's favorite desserts.
Yeah.
And that was inspired by one of our trips to Nice in
Hmm.
France, and we had this most amazing. I still dream about dessert at this restaurant called Bistro Marin, which unfortunately is no longer there.
Oh,
The owners retired, but they have like a sister restaurant. So the next time we go there, which is hopefully soon, and I'm hoping they actually
have
have
it on their
the
menu.
lemon souffle there. Definitely would want to have that again. But I made this like creme anglaise, creme anglaise to go with it. It's literally liquid gold.
Oh,
It's so velvety smooth, and it just like chef's kisses. So good.
oh, that sounds amazing. Well, well
Yeah,
done. Soufflés are tricky. Wellingtons are tricky. You
they're
really reached for the stars there. It sounds like you hit it out of the park. Let's mix some metaphors here.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. And I think with any sort of French cuisine kind of stuff, I think you just have to be patient and kind of go
Hmm.
through the process, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of steps. And I
Yes.
think it's just like chunking it down and then, breaking it all down and just
Yes.
getting through it.
Exactly. You know
Yeah.
that old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Like, and that's how you bake, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or cook, right? One
Yeah.
one bit at a time,
Yes.
and check it down. But anyway,
Yeah.
but that's what I've been up to. How about you? What have you done?
I'm doing some recipe creation and really enjoying it. I'm having fun coming up with, I've had my flavor list, so I have all
Yes.
these ideas of different flavor combinations that I want to try.
Yep.
But I've been actually putting them into practice. So, just trying out a few different things here and there. The most recent one that I did was my beecherine cake, which
Yes.
I was so excited to actually make that work. So, friends that I visit in Toronto had taken me out did we talk about this on a podcast before? I don't
Think
know.
so. I think
It's
you've
okay. We've
posted
talked
about it
about it in person.
recently. Yeah, we talked about it in person, and then I think you did a post recently on Instagram where you kind
I
of
did.
explained. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
explained. So, and we'll get this over with quickly, but
Oh,
just
go on. This
it's
is
an
cool.
Italian drink that's like chocolatey and coffee and so smooth, and it's got cream, and it's just, oh my goodness, just the most delicious thing you've ever had to drink. And so I wanted to create a cake that had those flavors and that sort of almost that mouthfeel.
Mhm.
And so I successfully created a bicerine cake, and I'm just so excited about how it turned out. And yeah, I posted it on the Instagram. I tagged Baking Scraps as a collaborator in it, so people should be able to find it. But
Um,
I really highly recommend trying this one. It's just I mean, if I do say so myself, it's delicious. Chocolate cake, and then you've got a chocolate ganache, and then a layer of cream cheese with a little bit of cocoa and espresso. And both of the ganache and the chocolate cake have espresso in them. So
mhm.
it's enough espresso in there that you can taste it.
Nice.
And then whipped cream on top,
Mm,
which is it's just a perfect complement to those, slightly heavier flavors.
yeah.
But oh my goodness, I loved it. So very, very, very excited with how that turned out.
It sounds incredible. It sounds
Yes.
incredibly delicious. I've never had a bichirine before. I never actually even heard of one.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, I've got to
Mhm.
look for this. So
Yes, maybe they have somewhere in Vancouver where we can get one because I would
I'm,
really like to try that with you. That would be nice
yeah, well,
when I'm
especially if you
over.
can find like an Italian sort of coffee shop.
Yes,
Maybe they have that, right? So
that's a great idea.
yeah, we'll
Great
definitely have
idea.
to try to find one. That'll be our
Yes.
search, our big search for while you're
Okay,
here.
definitely we'll do that because I'm going to be in Vancouver for a long time and I'm super excited about spending time with you.
I'm super excited about that. I miss you, my friend.
I know, I'm so excited we get actual time together. It'll be
I
great.
know.
You
So
too.
nice.
So it's exciting that you kind of talked about your Wellington because we have some really exciting guests today whose focus is more on cooking than on
Yes.
baking. The Three Kitchens podcast. We have Erin and Heather here with us, and I'm really excited to chat with them. We recorded this as a sister episode. They had us on their podcast, and so both of those episodes will be airing this week. So if you want to see how we do as guests on a podcast, I should probably not tell you to check it out until we've checked it out and made sure that we're comfortable with it. But yes, go check out Three Kitchens
Check it out.
podcast.
If not for our episode, check out Three Kitchens podcast because they've
Hmm.
got some super interesting, cool things that they do there all the time. And they're always trying different recipes. Again, more cooking. They do a
Yes.
little bit of baking as well.
They
But
baked for us. We
yeah, they
challenged them to
did. And
bake.
that's so much fun. And they're going to tell us about it on this episode.
Yes,
So yeah,
fantastic.
but
Yes, so please have
well,
a
that's
have an enjoyable time listening to Erin and Heather from the Three Kitchens podcast, and then check out us as guests on their podcast. Right? Airing this
cool.
week as well.
Airing this week, and it was such a fun experience being on the other side of
Yeah.
the questions. It
Yes.
was so much fun.
And we
I
were
really did.
together, so we were actually sitting
Yes.
beside each other. So I think that it's a little bit of a different energy when we're playing off each other literally side by side. So
Yeah.
it should
Hopefully
be
not
fun to
too
watch.
much energy.
Yeah, no, good energy.
Lots of good energy.
Yes, definitely. We had a blast. So
But in the
everybody.
meantime,
Yes.
let's listen to Heather and Erin. Welcome, you guys.
Well, welcome, Three Kitchens podcast to the Baking Scraps podcast. This is Heather and Erin, and we're very excited to have you here.
Yes. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here chatting
Amazing.
bacon with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, and hopefully some podcasting as well. So, you guys have been running the Three Kitchens podcast for some time now. How many years have you guys been on the air?
It will be 3 in April this year, 2025. 4?
Yeah,
No,
because we started in 2021
Oh my God, I shouldn't
and it's
answer any
2020.
questions.
so
This is where
25
you're supposed to
minus
say, Heather, do
21.
you want to take this one? Or Erin, do you want to take this one? Yeah.
Totally, totally. No, it's
We've
anytime
been
there are
having a
numbers
hard time
involved.
with this year.
I
That
know.
is hard.
I'm
That
still
is hard.
subtracting everything from 2024.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think, and also we started our podcast during the pandemic as like something to do because we were kind of cooped up. And I
Hmm.
think your brain can also get stuck in that time frame of when you began the thing. And
Hmm.
so you always kind of feel like you're a little bit like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we at? How
And
many episodes? Yeah.
and isn't it hard to believe that COVID was like almost 5 years ago, the start of COVID?
That's the shocking part that I just can't get over, right? Like saying that we've been plugging away at this for four
Yeah.
years is like, oh my gosh, that's a significant amount of time we've invested.
It is. It's quite an
Yes,
accomplishment,
that is
actually. Yeah, you
amazing.
should be very proud.
So,
So,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Christina.
Go ahead. Did you
Well, I
take
just
this
kind of
one,
wanted
Lisa?
to, okay. I just wanted to know how did you two meet each other? Let's start
Mhm.
there.
We met at preschool. Two of our kids were going to preschool together when they started when they were
Three.
three. They started a little preschool in our neighborhood, and we happened to live near each other, and our kids went to school there. And of course, there's a little park. And so after they have their little class, they play at the playground and socialize, and the moms, parents
Oh,
stand around and get to know each other. And so that's where we met.
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Hmm.
Was it an instant friendship?
I think so. I don't
I
remember
think
going, oh, that Erin, like,
I don't
I
know.
don't know about her.
When you've got a 3-year-old, and we also had a second child, so it you're in a coma. You're just
Yeah.
and you're
That's true.
grasping at anybody who will talk to you like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And Heather was
Mhm.
there for that. So we
Nice.
rescued each other from the blasé mom kind of.
That's true. And this was Erin's second child who was in the preschool. Actually, both her kids were in the preschool at the same time. And
Yeah.
and I had a baby. I had a preschooler
Yeah.
and a, like, not quite walking, like a little baby. So it was like, would also have lots of questions and things for the mom with more
Experienced mom.
experience. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
your brain must have been just absolute mush at that
Mm.
time.
Yeah. And two kids under
I just remember
three.
that feeling so well. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
Yeah.
hard.
So how far back was this? How old are the kids now?
They
Those
are
pre
13.
Yeah, they're in grade 8 now, those
Yeah.
preschoolers.
Yeah,
So
they grow fast.
yeah, just do the math. Someone else do the math. It's quite a while ago. It's like 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
guys the two of you became friendly when you were there for the preschool. And then how did that turn into an actual partnership slash, I'm assuming you were friends before it became this partnership because that you had quite a few years of knowing each other before you started the podcast.
Hmm. Yeah, we started, to come out of that coma, and we had a third friend whose child was also at the preschool who was in our class. Her name was Sarah, and so she originally was on the podcast with us,
Ah,
but
that answers
then
that question. Okay.
The
and
three
that's why we
kitchens.
were three kitchens. She moved on and did further schooling and other career stuff, so hobby days were over for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all were hanging out together, enjoying talking about what we were making for dinner, what different foods, what different tips. Like, we're always looking for advice. And we started working out together in a gym that Heather has at her place. And the more time we spent together, the more time we spent together and the more we wanted to do. And we started coming up with these crazy ideas, and COVID hit, and we
Mhm.
were trapped in our homes, and we're all homeschooling our children at this point. So
Hmm.
when dinner time hit, it was like, okay, I'm not your mom, I'm not your
Mhm.
teacher, don't talk to me for the next hour or so. I'm gonna go cook dinner and talk with my friends now.
Yeah,
So
so
we'd
we would
log on
FaceTime.
to
Yeah.
yeah, we'd
Yeah.
log on to our Zoom meeting and FaceTime each other, and it was, what are you cooking? What are you making? What are you
Oh,
drinking?
Yeah.
I love
yes.
that. And
That,
then that naturally kind of
Hmm.
parlayed itself into why
I
don't we
think,
do a podcast?
yeah, I think it might have actually been Erin's husband who said to her, "You guys are always talking about food. Why don't you make it a podcast and talk? You're already talking about it. Why don't you just record yourselves?" And we were
Hmm.
like, "Could we do that?" Like none of us, we all listened to podcasts, but we didn't know anything about creating a podcast.
Hmm.
We didn't feel
No.
confident in our speaking voices. We didn't know how to, the first thing about recording, editing. We didn't know how to host it, nothing. So it was also, at a time when we were eager for a creative outlet and we
mhm.
wanted that challenge, I guess, of learning something new. And it really, I mean, you probably remember the learning curve was like, like that,
Uh-huh.
right? Like
Uh-huh.
all those
Yep.
things to learn about this medium you've
Hmm.
only ever been a consumer of and never been a producer of, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't actually even listened to a podcast before we started doing
Oh,
ours. So I had no clue, none at all.
Oh, that's
So
fun.
yeah, yeah. So, but I
wow.
understand, yeah, understand the learning curve. It is definitely steep and we've learned a lot. We still have so much to learn because we're not even a year in. We're 6 months in,
Mm,
I guess,
hmm.
since we
Hmm.
first started ours.
Yeah, we
So
need a good camera.
Well, clearly, I mean,
She goes,
this
she goes fuzzy just as I
challenges.
said that. That was kind of funny.
I don't even know anymore. This is my second camera. I've got a third from on order from Amazon, which is supposed to be here today.
It's the same
Hmm.
as
Oh,
the one that
dang.
I have, so I'm hoping that that will make a difference. But
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so you decided you were going to try this out. So how long from conception to actually putting your first episode out there
It wasn't
with
long.
Sarah?
I,
Yeah, it
I
wasn't
want to say
long.
like we started maybe in January
We started the month
and
of
we,
February
oh, February. Okay.
because February is the suckiest month in our city. It sucks so bad. It's gray, it's cold. We always get like a cold snap, and you know, you're done with winter at this point. And we thought, okay, we are going to put our heads down and we're going to try and produce something by the end of February. And then once we've kind of learned and got that, we decided to launch in April.
Oh,
So we
okay.
spent that month of February
Learning.
hardcore learning. And then April came along, and I think we launched with 3 episodes to kind of start to just kind of have some stuff
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We hit the button and went like this.
yeah, oh man.
Because you think to yourself, like, who wants to listen? Who is going to listen to this?
Mm,
Hmm.
And the people you think might listen, mostly out of like support or pity, don't actually listen beyond like the first couple episodes. Your
mhm.
family and your close friends, you think they're going to support us.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them, our husbands certainly don't listen. Like they, like
No.
No.
the people that
Yeah,
we
no,
thought
mine
would be
either.
listeners don't listen. And yet we see the numbers and we're like, I don't know who you all are, but it's amazing. Like that's amazing that
Yeah.
any people want to
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So how
Yeah.
long before you started to see the numbers coming in and see that you actually had an audience?
I don't I don't know. Do you?
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know how I think we were just happy to just keep going each
Yeah.
week, and that, okay, somebody's tuning in and oh, it's in different places. So
Yes.
it's not just the family or the friends or the people that know us. Like, we know
Yeah.
nobody in the state of Illinois and somebody there is listening. So that's kind of cool, you
That
know?
It
And
is
is
so
so
cool.
cool.
there were those
Yeah.
little things, and then we kind of just kept rolling with it as opportunities came. And after our first after our first year, we started, somebody contacted us to say, would you like to interview somebody? And we thought, oh, well, maybe
Hmm.
that's what we should start doing. Maybe we
Yeah.
should try that out. And so we kind of adapted and changed and did that. And, there's been these little opportunities that have come our way, and we're just kind of taking what sticks to the wall and running with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
that's the best way of dealing with it, or just growing, or just, keep just expanding and changing, just evolving, I guess. I think that's a cool way of doing it, especially if you're open to new directions, or like a little, kink in the road or whatever, and then just go with it. I think that's usually a pretty good way to go through life.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
Just roll with
adaptability.
it, right? Yeah,
Pivot. Pivot.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, do it.
exactly. We now have probably half our episodes are guests. And
Yeah.
for the majority of them, we're still pitching. We don't
Right.
have too many people that come to us, although we get a few, but usually the ones who pitch us, we're not really interested in. And it feels like really amazingly exciting to be able to pick and choose. It's like, it's like, wow, we're actually in a position where we feel like we can say that doesn't really fit what we're trying to do at this time, as opposed to just feeling like, oh, wow, somebody wants to come on. We better have them on,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when you're unsure and it's new and you feel like, wow, anybody who wants to come and talk to us, we should have on. And now we're like, no, actually, we want to talk about that instead.
Yeah.
And so we've been really fortunate to get yeses from
Yeah.
some really amazing guests, including yourselves on
That
the
was really
podcast.
awesome.
So cool.
We had so much
Yeah.
fun coming on your podcast, and I'm excited to see I'm nervous and excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is it hard since it sounds like you do the editing? Is it hard letting somebody else have control of that audio?
No, I didn't
Oh,
have a
okay.
problem with that. No, I was actually really happy with not having to do any editing for that. I was like, I hopefully edited myself in the moment if need be, and then that should be enough. But
And the question should be back to you. Did you guys have to do a lot of editing on that episode?
just me.
How much editing did you need to do?
She's not responding.
No,
She's
I
the
know.
editor.
She took a drink of water, which
Yeah.
is
I was like,
probably a lot.
We're still in process.
You know what? It's because there were four of us, four voices.
Mhm.
yeah, when there's that hesitation because you're waiting to see if somebody else is going to ask a question or answer a question, so that makes it a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
end up with some dead spaces there, unless it just magically moves very smoothly. But
And I think we're all talkers. We all like to talk, which is fun and it's great, but it can also be probably a little bit for the listener. It's like, okay, who's saying what right now?
Yeah,
yes,
that's fair.
definitely.
Yeah.
I sometimes when I'm listening to ours, I realize that because I always thought I'm like, well, Christina and I, our voices are distinctive enough from each other. So most of the time I think people can hear. And it's the same with you too. I can pick up who is talking when I'm listening to your podcast. But sometimes I think, oh wait, was that me or was that Christina? And now I'm like, oh no, maybe we're not as distinctive as I thought.
Oh,
But yeah,
it's
as long
all
as they're
good.
not all running over each other all the time, it makes it work out pretty well. So how do you divide up the work then? Erin, you do all the editing?
Yeah, I do I handle the audio, and we both take turns cooking, obviously. So
yeah.
that's kind of 50-50. But Heather is on a new path.
Mm.
She's starting to work with the video piece of the podcast,
I know
but
this much
she
about it. That's a big zero.
but she also does all the social media stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeless on that stuff. Heather is great in Canva. She does all of our designing. She designed our logo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in order to do the social stuff, because it can be a lot, it's better to just be in it and to have it part of your routine that you just do the things.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't posted a reel in a while and then you have to jump in, like when I'm away and I'm like, Erin, can you post the reel or something? And she's like, how do I do this again? Like you have to stop and think, and it takes longer. It's just easier if you're kind of in the mode and you're used to looking at it, you're used to answering, responding to comments or whatever. It sounds like it's a lot, but really it's become kind of habit. And I really enjoy it. I really love the connection with people. Podcasters in particular are like the most amazing community of people online. They all want to talk to each other. They all want to ask questions. They want to help. They're really supportive. They promote each other. It's just like the best community of people. So I enjoy it.
No,
That's
it is.
wonderful.
It is really cool. And like the podcasting community, the baking community for us is very, very similar. There's just so much love, so much support, and we're all there for each other. And I think that's a beautiful thing about, doing what we do as podcasters as well, is just being able to have those conversations and just grow the community. And so I think there's something really special in being able to do that. And certainly, COVID, as horrible of a time that was for so many people, it did bring out a lot of really great stuff. And I think podcasts was one of those things that I think just expanded in
Yeah.
so many different ways. And so now there's just endless conversations being had out there, and having a chance to meet different people. Like, I don't know that we would have met otherwise if we weren't doing a podcast and you were doing a podcast,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
exactly.
power of social media.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of bad things about it, but there's also lots of really cool stuff that goes
Yeah.
on.
I
Absolutely.
think
And I
if you,
think, oh, sorry.
no, I was gonna say, if you use it right and you're making friends on it and you're making connections and you're growing from it,
Yes.
then if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. That was another podcaster that we had met along the way who said that to us.
Yeah.
If you're not making friends on social media, you are doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, you're probably just annoyed and frustrated and, like you see the bad in it, I think. But if you're
Yeah.
making friends and you're having good conversations and you're connecting, I think it's great. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
what you said about during COVID, all the podcasts kind of came up. So did baking,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. And cooking.
Yeah.
And
I
maybe
feel
a
like
little
all of
drinking along
that,
the way too.
there was that there were the memes going around of like your COVID checklist or like COVID bingo, and
Yeah.
baking sourdough and starting a podcast were definitely on there.
Air
We're just a few
fryers,
years
Air
behind.
fryers.
getting a pet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just worked all through the whole pandemic, so everything felt almost the same to me, except, I mean, and I worked in the operating room and the labor and delivery, so I was used to wearing a mask all the time. So it was kind of like, oh, I kind of wish I had to be stuck at home making bread. That would be nice, but
Mm,
it's all good. I'm so glad that that's behind us and
Mhm.
that we can just kind of accept it, what happened as part of our lives, and move on from it and hopefully learn from it. And we get a bunch of good podcasts and a bunch of good sourdough.
mm.
I still don't bake
Yeah.
sourdough.
Oh, I don't either. I'm glad you said that because I thought I was the only one in this group.
Well, Christina bakes sourdough, but she also killed her starter.
Oh, and I have lots extra. So I've
I
actually just
left my
restarted mine.
starter and he's died again. So
Oh
eh,
no. And
eh.
she says,
I've made him. I've created the starter twice, so I feel like I'll probably fail miserably the next 5 times. But now I have this false sense of confidence of when I feel like I have the time to keep up with it, I
Yeah.
can do it again. But
do it again.
right now, no.
My daughter makes sourdough now, so I'm just like, I just wait for a loaf to come my way, and it's great.
That's so
Nice.
nice.
Trying all kinds of different flavors, and I'm like, yes,
Oh,
please,
nice.
bring me one anytime. So
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we did an
sounds-
episode on it with
Oh yeah.
a mutual friend of all of ours, Larry Harris
Oh, Larry.
Yes.
of Canadian Baking Show
Yes.
fame. He
Yes.
came on the show and taught us. Didn't help me, but that's just because I'm a terrible learner. But Erin, that's how Erin learned to make sourdough was from
Sourdough.
Larry.
From
Well,
Larry.
I'm sure Larry has a little sourdough starter that he could probably get over to you.
You'd have to get from Edmonton, right?
It's a long drive.
It's true.
It's a long
Sorry.
drive, but it's a pretty straight shot.
Yeah.
You can
Maybe
do
when the
it.
weather gets better, the roads
There
are
you go.
better. Maybe he can mail it to you. I think you can dry some. You can dry it out and then reconstitute it with
I
water.
keep seeing the drying
Oh.
thing,
That's a
which I
lot.
hadn't seen before. I also could have just left him in the back of my fridge for longer.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't that much
Mm,
alcohol on top of him yet. I could have
yeah.
just, with that nice layer of alcohol, he probably could have lived back there
He would have
longer.
been,
But
he totally could have. What was his name?
Joe the second.
Joe the second. So was Joe the first the first?
Joe was our
Yes,
original
Joe.
starter. He was a member of our family. It was very exciting that we actually created the creature to do the sourdough, and the kids were all excited about it. I can't remember what happened with him. Hmm.
Neglect, probably.
Neglect. I love
Neglect.
Well, isn't that what happens?
that was
Isn't
awesome. Neglect.
Yeah,
well, I'm just assuming that's all you need to do is neglect it long enough.
probably.
Yeah.
Probably,
If you leave it out and then
Yeah.
you're not doing anything with it, then it can go moldy. If it's in your fridge, it'll last in there for like months on end. I've had
Yeah.
More than
I've had
months. Mine's in
yeah.
there now. I don't remember the last time I took it out.
Yeah, it should be fine. And then
Wow.
every so often, like when you do get that alcohol, just pour it out and it's fine. It's hard to, yeah, it'll be fine.
Someday again.
Yeah.
Joe the third,
Joe the third.
hopefully, will
I
make
mean,
it.
it's a big time commitment. It really is.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm happy to just bake other things,
Mhm.
quite honestly.
I
Like,
have a really easy overnight bread,
mm,
and I just love it. I've been baking it now, oh my goodness, probably for at least 10 years.
wow.
And it's simple, it's easy. I know the recipe. It takes 5 minutes to mix up at night.
Perfect.
I bake it in the morning, and
Ugh,
there's none of that extra stuff. I mean, the sourdough process is amazing,
Yeah.
yes.
but I have teenagers in my house.
Hmm.
I don't have the juice to raise another creature.
No.
That's what it comes down to. You're just
That
spent
is a line.
everybody else. There's no capacity to take on any other
Yeah.
any
No,
other
I love
creature.
that. It's
Yeah.
so true. I mean, teenagers, I'm so glad to be past that. But I had
Yes.
three. Well, actually, they were not all three teenagers at the same time. I just for a very, very short window, about 6 months, I had three teenagers at the same time. And
Oh,
then
wow.
one graduated from being a teenager, and I was like, okay, only two left. And now they're all in their 20s, and it's easy. Like all out of the house, very relaxed. Now I have four dogs, so that's another story, but they're never like teenagers. They're more like toddlers. Oh,
Hmm.
shush.
And I have nothing. No kids left at home. No
You have a husband.
pets. Just my husband, but he pretty much takes care of himself.
As he should.
Yes, he
Pretty
should.
good. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you come up with an idea for a recipe that you want to try, and you do you just basically back and forth, like this week is your week, this week is yours, or do you have a different kind of schedule?
We usually identify what we've got coming up from in the next like 6 weeks or so. How many of those are guests? How many of those are one of us cooking without a guest? And then we'll be like, okay, so I need to pick a recipe and do something. You need to do one for that date further out or whatever. We kind of just keep it. We always have kind of a running. Thanks, honey. Can you plug it in for me? Sorry, my battery was dying. Behind me. I have my assistant to help me.
Excellent.
What a
Here.
great assistant.
Thank
And
you
then
for joining us.
bring me the other one. That one. Bring me that one, please.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this
these
is
two.
the master calendar here behind me.
Oh.
It contains all of our schedule of who's when,
Wow.
and we just kind of, and we'll see things and we'll look at the calendar and be like, oh, hey, Chinese New Year's coming up. Do you have anything that goes with that you want to do? Oh, yeah, I was going to talk about this. Okay, we'll pop that episode here. Or,
Nice.
Valentine's is coming up. We should do
Yeah.
something sweet. Or, just kind of, and sometimes we just text each other at the grocery store being like, are you going to be home in 30 minutes? I have this thing. I just found it and we need to talk about it right now.
Yeah,
That's so
because I want to
fun.
make it. I want to make it soon. Yeah.
So how much time would you say out of your week are you spending on the podcast? Like,
I
do you
kind of
have
don't want to
other
know.
jobs, or are you homemakers? Is that your job? Or what's the
All,
balance? You
all
don't
of the above. We
a
both
balance.
have other part-time jobs that we do from home.
Oh,
Yeah,
good. Oh, that's nice.
that does help for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
But honestly, I don't even, I've been asked that question recently a
Hmm.
couple of times, and I was like, I don't know, and I don't really want to know. Like,
Okay.
how much time do I spend on this? I think it's an obscene amount of time. If you count, like, just like, shh,
Answering questions and
oh my God, sorry. This is what happens when the kids are home.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
we're not
That
used
one
to
was
the.
singing. I'm like, why are you in here singing? Like, this is not the time.
Maybe he thought we
No.
needed some
love that.
background music.
Oh my God.
Oh man, I
Background
love your
music.
children.
Yes.
They're wonderful.
Just do it. Sing for me later. Um, uh,
I
I
don't know.
forget now.
It's kind of like because it is our hobby, it's not something you're like, "Oh, well, how many hours did I spend knitting this
Mhm.
week?"
Yeah, yeah.
Like
That's
Mm,
fair.
I was
mm,
knitting because I like knitting,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
if I sat for like 8 hours knitting this week, so be it. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Right? Like it's more so we're just happy with what we're doing and
Yeah.
putting out, and it never really feels too stressful.
That's good. I think
That's
that's
good.
what I was
Yeah.
kind of getting at, right? Like, is
Hmm.
it something that you find that you're spending an
Mm.
awful lot, like a disparate amount of time rather than the other things? Not that I would say please slow down, because I really enjoy listening to your episodes and I think that it's great. And it gives me ideas on what to cook for
Hmm.
dinner. Also,
Absolutely.
Oh,
yes,
well,
which
we're
is
doing our
really
job
fun.
then.
Yes, we
Yeah.
Woohoo!
are.
Checking the boxes.
Yes.
We
But
always say, as long as we're still having fun,
Hmm.
then we're gonna just keep going with what we're
Yeah.
doing. And when we need a break, we take a break. Like we
Yeah.
usually take a month or 6 weeks or so off in the summer,
Yeah.
usually like August, maybe a little more. And sometimes we are energetic and we batch record a bunch of stuff and then we just put it out during that time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And other times we've just been silent. I can't honestly remember
Yeah.
how many times,
Yeah.
but
I mean, we kind of almost took a month off in December because we had gotten everything done ahead of time. We knew it was coming out. We kind of had everything edited and ready to go. So it was really just a matter of jumping on,
Scheduling
doing
it.
some social posts,
Yeah.
Yeah.
making sure that we link things. And yeah, it wasn't, was kind of, I felt kind of disconnected from things, even though it was like, oh, look at that. It's Tuesday and there's an episode coming out.
you're welcome, Erin. I did
Yeah.
it. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
But a couple things we did do over the holidays, and this connects back to our episode when
Mhm.
you ladies were our guests, and that is we baked something new to us.
Yay.
And we
Yes.
do want to share that with you because we had
Oh,
talked about it in the Three Kitchens
yeah.
episode with baking scraps. So
Hmm.
I felt like you gave us homework over the holidays
Hmm.
after we had that
Yes.
discussion.
I think we did. I think we did. So I
We
think
have
so.
made notes.
We have
mm,
made some notes. So I think, Erin, you were going to tackle, I believe, a chocolate mint Yule log.
Yep.
And Heather, you were tackling some stuffed cookies.
I sure did.
And tell us how it went.
I can go first if you want.
I'm going to refer to you for Heather on this one.
Erin's like still kind of mad that she had to make that cake, I think. She
I'm
blamed
not
it on me
mad.
that I volunteered her to make a cake.
Okay, but is there a whole episode on that cake?
Coming up?
No.
No.
Okay, good. We're just going to
No.
talk about it now.
Yep, this will be where everybody hears about the cake.
Perfect.
But we're hearing about the cookies first.
Cookies first.
Sure. Okay, so I had made apple butter
Yes, that's right.
and
Mm.
and I was asking you ladies, how do I go about stuffing it into cookies? Because in the Great Canadian Baking Show, they were making stuffed cookies, and I had never made a stuffed cookie. I had it in my mind that a stuffed cookie was a sandwich cookie, and I learned that there's a difference. And then I had this idea, oh, maybe I can put my apple butter into a cookie. And
The big sigh is not
I don't know.
really.
it's okay. I'm not any great baker. Let's just put that out there. I'm not a fantastic baker, and it's not really my favorite thing to do either. Like I fully admit I would rather cook than bake most days of the week. Although I love to eat it, it's like I have a major sweet tooth and I want to eat all the baking. I just don't have
There's
confidence.
lots of ideas for
Yeah.
baking too. She's the ideas guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll be like,
I'm keeping
Erin,
that in
And
mind.
Erin,
so
can you bake this?
love how this partnership works.
Yeah,
Ideas
unfortunately.
person, you're the executor, Erin.
Well, I did execute the stuffed cookie, and I have to say they did turn out.
Good.
And it was largely due to the advice that you guys gave me about putting toffee to kind of insulate that apple butter and freeze the apple butter in advance, which you said to do.
Right.
Yay!
So I froze little kind of
Dollops.
dollops, roughly tablespoon size in my freezer, and I had that like ready to go. It melts really quick, you guys. Like, just tell anybody listening who's wondering, oh, how does that work? It melts so fast as soon as you take it out.
It's thawing already, yeah.
So I kept it in the freezer like next to me, and I would just take one out and try to be as quick as I could. So I made a brown butter cookie, and I flavored it with pumpkin spice, the pumpkin spice mix that I had left from fall baking. And so I rolled out the Kraft caramel squares. I rolled them as flat as I could without breaking it. And so I had my cookie, I put the caramel, then I put a piece of the apple butter, and then I formed it around as best I could quickly so that I'm not warming up that apple butter and like melting it. And then on the cookie sheet, and I did like 6 at a time, and then they went in the oven. And for the most part, it worked. It was a success. There were a few that when I took it off the cookie sheet, they were kind of stuck because the caramel had come out the bottom a little bit.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a success, and I would absolutely try stuffing cookies again in the future.
Yay!
And they sounded delicious. I love the
Yes.
They
brown
were
butter with the pumpkin
delicious.
spice, the apple butter, and the caramel. Oh my God. All
Way
It
of
was
to
like
go.
fall, all of fall was in one sweet little package. They worked out really good.
They were big. Like, I don't know how
Yeah.
you do like a smaller cookie and stuff it. It was quite a large cookie.
Yeah, mine were quite large too when I did the stuffed cookie. I think they ended up being like
Yeah,
big.
like
Yeah.
pretty big.
Yeah, because I mean, you can make them really nice and tight and compact, but there's still a bunch of stuff in the middle, and then it just all spreads out. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm really excited that
Yay!
that the
Thank
advice
you.
helped.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll have the recipe on our website if anybody wants to go. and-
I'm gonna try it.
Yes.
Awesome.
Sounds awesome.
Yes, that
All
sounds
right. So great success on Heather's front with her stuffed cookies.
Spotlight
Erin,
on Erin.
tell us about the chocolate mint Yule log.
And now for that.
Oh, come on.
So I haven't ever baked this type of cake before, so that was fun and a little bit daunting.
Mhm.
But so I didn't have a recipe, so I went online and I grabbed one off of Sally's Baking Addiction because she
Yes.
always has
She's always great.
her recipes. I trust
Yeah,
that
agreed.
she's not leading me astray.
Yes, we love
And
Sally.
so the first thing that I learned was that I needed cake flour for this, and I didn't have cake flour. And at this point in the holiday season, I had been to the grocery store more times than I ever wanted to be, and I was refusing to leave my house again. So then I was like, well, what do I do if I don't have cake flour? Because I'm not leaving my house.
Uh-huh.
And she had advice for mixing regular all-purpose flour with cornstarch and sifting it together. And so I did that, and I thought it probably worked out pretty good because it all went okay with baking the cake.
Perfect.
It was, yeah, it was let's see. I just need to read my notes again.
Because it was so far. I mean, so much happens during the Christmas season.
Yeah.
It's
And I
yeah.
kind of take poor notes at the best of times. All right. So there was a whole bunch of separating these egg whites and egg yolks from each other in this because that's what's giving you the sponginess in your cake.
Yeah.
And I get a little bit intimidated as soon as I have to rely on something like eggs to make my cake or make something rise, right? Because you never know when you're gonna flatten it, or I don't know. I'm not a confident enough baker. I like baking because I like the precision in it, but I'm not always great with some of the technique, and then I get a little bit, yeah. So
Been there for sure.
there we go. So getting everything wet, beaten together, and then sifting in that dry ingredients and just folding it in so that you had and the batter was all nice and puffy and bubbly. And I was like, ooh, this is going good. And then I had to grease the parchment paper onto the baking sheet. And then it also said to put grease on the parchment paper to make it release. And I was like, well, that seems excessive, but we'll do this anyway. The spots that I missed with the butter definitely stuck more. And I was like, oh, okay, greasing this baking paper that should release, super important. So that was my take home tip for getting it to release. But it cooked really quick. It was what, 15 minutes at 350,
Yeah.
and your cake is done. And then I had to dust a tea towel with cocoa powder before I rolled it up.
Right, because
And
it was
so
a chocolate cake.
because it was a chocolate based cake. And so I rolled it up in there. It sat for 3 hours. And then it had a whipped cream, a mint whipped cream filling, which I went and bought some peppermint syrup at a local Italian shop because I have used peppermint extract in the past and the reviews haven't been great.
Okay.
Well,
And I was
Toothpaste reviews, right?
to be fair, this was in a cocktail that she keeps on referring back to because the reviews were not, it was not great, but it was a
not
cocktail. It's
great.
completely different. Maybe you don't put peppermint extract in a cocktail. I don't know.
I got shy.
Get over it. Get over the peppermint. You're fine.
So I bought a syrup and it's really tasty peppermint syrup. And so this was whipping cream, peppermint syrup, icing sugar, and a little bit of cocoa powder, and just kind of whipped it all together. And then you unroll that cake and you put your filling in and you roll it back up. And at this point, I was super excited because everything was staying together and it was a log and I was all happy about it. And then it came to the decorating part where you have to like finish it off with something. And listeners of our podcast will know that we hate decorating cakes. Decorating cakes is
true.
like anything that can be done rustic,
Yes.
or that's
Rustic
like
syrup is good.
one of those ones you pour a syrup glaze and sprinkle some nuts on or something. That's the limit of my decorating expression. So I thought I would try and create some sort of chocolate bark on top to make it look like a log.
Yeah.
And this is where I fell flat on my face. I couldn't get the chocolate to like melt properly. It all started clumping. I tried the whole double boiler and everything. I don't know. I want tips for proper chocolate melting because I cannot. It's like the fourth time I've tried to melt chocolate. If I do it in a saucepan, I get better results than I do on a double boiler. So anyway, I
Okay.
sort of mashed this chocolate together and made a covering to my log. It was hard to cut through because I didn't get what I wanted as my end result, but it was a log. It was rolled up.
Yeah. I mean,
And it
that's a
sounds like
huge
it would have been.
success if it did not break.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is really impressive.
It was delicious.
I was going to say, it sounds like
Sounds
it would have been
delicious.
incredibly delicious.
It
It was pretty
really
good.
good. And there was a point when I got a text with a picture. I don't know if it was a picture or video of the rolling
yes.
up the rolling of the cake, and it was like, it's working, was the text. And I
Yeah.
was like, yay! Like, because she was so excited that it was
Yeah.
working.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
clearly, you figured it out. The thing with that chocolate on the top, it tasted delicious. It was just too hard.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
you couldn't cut
Too
a
thick.
slice. Yeah, it was too
If it
thick.
was
You
actual
couldn't,
chocolate.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
when
maybe
we just kind of took it and broke it and ate it,
perfect.
it tasted so good.
Yeah.
It just
I
wasn't what you wanted it to be.
I think the cake itself, I would make chocolatier next
Mhm.
time, put more cocoa in because there wasn't as much cocoa powder in this one. So I think I would make it a richer chocolate cake.
Mhm.
And I think I would put a bit more peppermint flavor in the, like I said, I'm really shy with the
Yeah.
peppermint.
Mm.
So I would put a little bit more in the whipped cream next time to kind of just get a little bit of a stronger flavor. But again, like personal preferences,
Yeah.
right? Like the first time you bake
Absolutely.
something, you have no idea if you're gonna be happy with the flavors until you've done it a few times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Overall, it was totally good.
It
I
was
love it.
very good.
Awesome.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
so would either of you make your respective baking assignments again?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Good. So that's
I would attempt the cake now that I've seen Erin do it, and I'd take the tips. I'd take the
There you
tips.
go.
I feel like if you just did like more of the cream on top and maybe
yeah, you
sprinkles
could
or
have just
shavings or something and keep it like
Well, I
simple on
wanted
the
to
top.
make like a nice thin chocolate
I
bark, and I had a
know.
little bit of extra whipped cream, and then I
mm,
was gonna like smash up the chocolate bark and put it on there in little pieces so that, you know how
Mhm.
it looked like
the
a
bark of a tree looks rough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the ideas person that can't execute the visuals.
mm. That's okay.
Yeah. And we've all been there.
We've all been there. We all continue to be there. Sometimes that vision in your head just does not
Hmm.
translate into,
Yeah.
the final product. And that's all right too sometimes, because I'm sure like, at the end of the day, the taste was there and everybody enjoyed it. And that ultimately is the most important thing, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. And I'm sure it probably was better than what you're thinking it
Mm.
ended up as
Oh yeah.
well,
No, it,
I'm sure it
Mhm.
was
right?
great. Erin,
yeah, it
remind
worked
me
out
to
pretty good.
send you, I've got to send you a picture of one of the first times that I baked along with the Great Canadian Baking Show, and I tried making a treasure chest out of cookies. And the decorating was the hardest part for me. I was terrible at decorating. I could like bake cakes, I could bake cookies, but oh yeah, this was terrible. Terrible. I'm gonna send you a picture of it and then you'll be like, "Oh my log was fantastic." Because that
You're in
Oh,
treasure
good
chest was
company
a
then.
treasure.
we've
I
seriously, we've
I
all been
run out of
there and
steam with the decorating part. Like
Mhm.
I just
Well,
even
you
when we
waited
do
3 hours
cookies
for
at
your cake to cool.
Christmas,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
at Christmas when it's cookies, it's like which one takes the least amount of decorating? Like
Hmm.
if you're asking me to pipe stuff, skip the page. Like I'm moving on.
but I have mad respect for cookiers because the
Oh,
amount of patience and energy and I mean it's crazy.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of I do some just because I feel like I probably should have some. And usually I'm doing like wet on wet, like super quick wet on wet technique. And then I'll dip my cookie instead
Mm.
of like,
mhm.
doing the whole like, border around. No.
I
Heather's
think
got some good cookie decorating skills.
I haven't done that in a long time, but I did. I have a friend who's like an amazing baker, and she years ago she had a few of us over. We drank lots of wine, and we practiced piping and like decorating sugar cookies. She kind of taught us how to do it, and there was
while
a
under the
time.
influence.
Yes, we ate more icing and drank more wine than we baked and decorated. But there was a time when I had the patience and I would spend time on them. And now I just feel like I don't think it's necessary. Like it looks cool and I love
Yeah,
watching
it
other
does.
people do it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But
Yeah.
I'm like, I like a sugar cookie just without icing.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I'm like, good enough for me.
Yeah, royal icing is very sweet,
Yeah.
Mm.
but
Yeah,
not always
like
the nicest. But yeah, it's another art form. It's one of the ones that I try occasionally and do enjoy how they turn out often.
Yeah.
But
It's
it's
beautiful work.
oh, thank you. But it's a lot of time, a lot of work and a lot of time. But
mhm.
and Christina, don't sell yourself short because your cookies have been beautiful also. Some have not been beautiful, but you have
No, like
had
the
some
ones we did
very
at your
beautiful ones.
place at one time. You're doing these beautiful like what's that called? Cross stitch kind of cookie. It was
Oh,
amazing,
wow.
right? It was like totally incredibly
I
amazing.
just copied it off of Great British Bake Off. Somebody did that. So
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so I'm just like doing I don't know what I was
I don't
doing,
know
but
what
it
it
was
was either.
horrible. They
I'm
were
glad she
so
lets me laugh
pathetic.
at it.
And at one point I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm out.
I would never, ever, ever say you're pathetic.
Oh, I do. So
I
that's
know
fine.
you're allowed to say it.
I'm
I'm not ever
totally
going to say
okay
that.
with it.
No, but you do amazing things
So,
that I cannot touch. So,
oh.
we each have our own skill sets.
Yeah, and things that we like to do as well. I
Yeah.
think that's the other part of it is it's not for like, you know, I think you mentioned it earlier when we were chatting, Erin, like just knowing how to do all these different things. But then there are some things that I think we kind of enjoy doing a little bit more. And so maybe we're a bit more we spend a little bit more time doing there because we're more passionate about it, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I think finding that niche, we can't all be good at everything, but but trying it and seeing what you like and what you don't like, I think is the important thing in baking, certainly, and I'm
Yeah.
sure in cooking as well. So
Like Larry. Larry's a bread guy.
Larry is the
Hmm.
amazing
Larry
bread guy.
focuses on bread and
Yeah.
he's so good at it. So
Yes.
he's the go-to guy. Well, let's talk about the chocolate then. So tell me the steps. You used a double boiler.
Man, I feel like most of my memory has been wiped now from the
It's
traumatic
okay.
experience. I just chocolate in a bowl.
Yeah, like
Anne Marie.
I had
baker's
a,
chocolate or
Yeah, what
oh,
kind of chocolate did you use?
chocolate
chocolate chip.
chips.
Chocolate chips. Okay.
Okay.
I think it was a glass bowl that I had
Okay.
because I don't have a stainless steel one, which I feel like possibly might be the first thing I want to go and do.
Hmm.
But yeah, just on top of a pot of boiling water.
Okay. You want your water to be simmering rather than
Okay.
boiling. So you bring it to a boil and then you bring it back down so it's just very gently simmering.
Okay.
I mean, usually if your chocolate is getting hard and clumpy, it's because you've gotten water in there somehow, so it's seizing.
Oh.
So if you put anything wet in there, that's going to seize your if you put like cream in there or something to try to loosen it up, it's going to have the opposite effect and it's going to end up just seizing all that chocolate.
Would peppermint syrup do that?
Yes.
Yes. That's probably,
Oh.
Ding, ding, ding,
yeah.
ding. Okay, so when could you flavor it with a flavored syrup? And when would you do that? Would
So
are
it
my next
depends
questions
on,
then.
how much water was in that syrup. So if
Okay.
you'd use the extract
Mhm.
in there,
Okay.
because it's generally more alcohol based, then
Right.
you wouldn't have had as much of the issue. And I would have done it right at the end. So I'm not sure when you added your peppermint.
All right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. So if
Mhm.
you had actually melted your chocolate down and then added, you probably would have been okay.
And very sparingly because I have had that happen with
Okay.
extract as well.
Yeah.
But just very little tiny bit, but you want it to be so that it's very nice and smooth
And if you
before.
wanted to do it with the chocolate mint, you can actually buy the chocolate mint chocolate bars
Or
already,
Yeah.
chocolate
and or
chips
chocolate chips and
that
use
are
those.
mint.
And then you have nothing about worrying or adding anything else in. But I bet you it was the syrup that probably did that, especially if it was right at the beginning.
Yep. Definitely.
Oh, well, that's
And
good to
so
know.
then to do the bark, you could put it all on some parchment paper and roll it all up. And then when you open it all up, you have all these kind
The
of
little
curved
pieces of it.
pieces that you can stick on to make it look like bark.
I ended up like kneading the dough together because I had white chocolate and semi-sweet chocolate chips together. And I just kind of kneaded the dough together and I put it between two layers of parchment and it was soft enough that I could roll to get thin so that I could then like flop it over the
Oh,
cake,
perfect.
That
Look
works.
at
which
you.
worked-ish. But again, then once it hardened,
Mhm.
Mm.
like I laugh because I went to cut it and it was like, oh dang, this is when at first it was soft and it cut through easily. So when I portioned out Heather's piece, I was like, oh, well, actually, maybe this is a good thing. It'll cut fine. But then later in the day when we went to go and eat it at dinner, I was like, tap, tap, tap.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of like, I was smacking the knife on it to see if it would like cut anywhere along the, yeah, it was an ugly serving process.
I think that for you, the type of baking that you need to do is the type of baking that Andre does. Andre won season 2 of the Great Canadian Baking Show. And when we were baking at his place with him, he said that his preference is to bake things that are done when you take them out of the oven. So all the decorating is done in the process of making it and then finished. Yeah.
Perfect.
Sounds like your kind of thing. Definitely.
Right up there.
Yeah, probably just added some extra cocoa powder, or you could have actually done a nice light dusting of icing sugar and it would have looked like snow. And here's the other thing that's super easy, especially during the holiday season. And one of my favorite ways to decorate is you candy up some cranberries and rosemary. Like just throw them in some like a simple syrup for like just until they're kind of wet. Throw them on a baking sheet, let them dry off a little, and then just throw sugar on them and toss them around, and they're beautiful. Super, super easy, and yeah.
So I forgot to mention, I wanted it to look pretty when we looked at the ends of it, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And when you've rolled it up, you've kind of got that uneven edge from your baking sheet. And I was like, well, I'm going to cheat. And I cut my log in half. Mm-hmm. And then I put the ugly ends towards each other so that the nice cut ends were on the outside so that it looked, ooh, look at this nice cut edge. So I had to cover that seam. That was that's what the chocolate had to do, was hide the fact that I had rearranged it.
Could you not have just sliced each end and eat that and enjoy it?
I was going to say,
and then you have nice clean ends.
Exactly, quality control.
Yeah, you had to taste test, right? Give one end slice to
that sounds much too logical, Heather. I like to make things more complicated, so I went the long way about it.
I enjoyed that. I really like what you did there, and you didn't eat a single piece of cake.
Yeah, no cake was sacrificed. There was no garbage cake.
That's a worthy sacrifice.
My husband calls that the husband tax.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to take that. He took a whole jar of salted caramel as a husband tax the other day.
Oops, that's reasonable.
Yes,
he thought it was quite reasonable. So,
did he eat the whole jar in one sitting?
No.
Okay, that's good.
He took it.
I was getting worried there.
No.
Okay.
Well, it was because I made a batch of salted caramel and it just got a little titch overdone. And so it had that slightly bitter edge to it. So I wasn't going to use that for the salted caramel cupcakes that I was making for someone else's birthday party. So he took the whole entire jar and said, it's good enough.
Nice.
Oh, I would too.
Yeah.
My husband always raids the fridge, and there's always like, a bowl with some leftover ganache or caramel or anything like that. And so he'll do that every so often if he's got like a little hankering for something sweet, and he'll just go in there and he'll grab a spoon, and I'm like, what are you doing? But he doesn't like chocolate mint. So and I had made this chocolate mint cake for a birthday, and I had some leftover stuff, and he went in there and he's like, what is this? And I'm like, chocolate mint. He's like, you could have told me. I'm like, well, stop raiding the fridge for all my baking stuff. So
well, you have to label it, maybe.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Most times.
Sounds like a natural consequence.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, what do you say we play a game of this or that?
Sounds good.
All right.
I don't know, Erin, you seem a little hesitant. Are you scared?
Oh, no.
Oh, good.
I'm good. I'm terrible at making decisions. So
I know.
I'll probably
I was
just say both.
I think we're both a little indecisive, but we're willing to play.
That sounds good.
Right.
Well, I mean, we could do bake it or buy it like you did for us, but I think
I'll just buy it
for everything. That's no slag on your baking. That's
No, sometimes it's easier to just buy it than bake it.
just a
Mm.
conclusion that I thought was logical. So,
I am with you.
all
All
right.
right.
Start us off.
So super easy. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What time of day is it? See, I have to get so I have to be complicated.
No,
Let's go for tea.
Okay.
Ooh,
Cool. So Heather, with your coffee, how do you usually take it?
black
Okay. So just straight up.
into my veins. Yes, basically.
IV
Yeah.
drip if you could do that.
Yes.
Got it.
Yep.
Erin, what kind of tea do you like?
I prefer a black tea, but I'll drink herbal tea at night and just black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody takes any cream or sugar or milk or anything.
I
Hot
heavily
drink?
cream my coffee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Yeah. I've tried. I
Heather's
had
commented on
some.
that before.
Oh, I
Would you
can't.
like some coffee with your cream there, Erin?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Yeah, it's totally
I've
fine.
tried.
Nope.
Like when it's, I'm on some kind of trying to cut my calories or whatever, and I'm like, all right, I'll try drinking coffee without any honey and cream in it. And I'm just like, what's the point of drinking this? This is horrible. So,
There's
but
a point to drinking it.
Yep. It
but
tastes good.
I want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Oh, I enjoy it black.
Yeah. No, that's
personally.
good. I
Yeah.
wish I could enjoy it black.
Yeah.
I'll try. I'll
I
continue
love
trying to wean
cream in
myself.
coffee.
Yeah.
Half of the enjoyment comes from drinking the cream.
Yeah. I'm there. I'm with you.
There you
Yes.
go.
Same thing. All right.
Cool.
And this one I think we know the answer to,
We know
but
the answer to this
yeah.
one.
Cooking or baking?
Cooking.
Erin's looking indecisive again.
Probably baking.
Okay,
Okay.
that's great. You don't
It's a
have to
good team
say
over
that.
here.
Yeah,
you know?
it's
That's
really
Yeah.
good.
perfect.
Well, do you have a sweet tooth also like Heather does?
Oh, very
Yeah,
much
yeah.
so.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you'll
yeah.
bake it and eat it.
Yes. And my gateway into the kitchen was baking. And I'm a very precise person.
So that makes
So
That's
baking
right. Yeah.
is easier for me because if I'm going to follow a recipe or do something new, it's very well outlined. And 9 times out of 10, I can follow the instructions.
Right.
nice.
But with cooking, when it's like to taste or when done, and it's like, what does that mean? But I'm
she's-
learning to
she-
go with the flow.
Yeah, she'll admit that I
Oh,
am
yeah.
a positive influence on her. My fly by the seat of my pants attitude in the kitchen has actually sometimes it works, and then you get real cocky thinking like, oh, look
yeah.
at me. I can like throw stuff together. And it tastes good. And then your family goes, ooh, where did this go? I didn't even know we had these ingredients. Where'd this come from? And I'm like, that's right.
Yeah.
I made that.
Put on your superwoman cake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and Erin's learning. Erin's picking
I'm-
up those.
I'm learning.
Nice.
It's
It's
fun.
hard to let go of that structure because structure is so helpful sometimes. But
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Erin, do you have something that you love to bake?
Probably my bread.
Okay.
My overnight bread that I make
overnight
all
bread.
the time. I love making it. It's easy. It smells delicious.
Mhm.
I do like breads. If I someday when my time is not as stretched, I do like spending more time doing bread stuff because I like anything that has a dough that you have to get your hands into. I don't know. That process is, I don't know, so enjoyable.
therapeutic. Yeah.
Therapeutic. Yeah.
Sometimes we look at doughs and I'm like, oh, I just want to squish that.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And when we were just talking about it, because Erin was just making egg noodles, we haven't recorded about it yet, but we had a brief discussion about it and how the dough was not like coming together. And we were talking about how satisfying it is when it actually is like soft and
Yes.
you can knead it and you not like you don't need the
Like
strength of
pizza dough.
I don't know who to
I
like knead
love
it.
dough.
Yeah.
making pizza dough. It's so squishy and fun.
So satisfying.
I totally agree.
Yeah, she likes to
And
get her hands in the dough.
yeah, me
Yeah.
too. I know anytime I have the opportunity to actually knead dough, I will instead of putting it in the machine, like
Mm.
using the KitchenAid. So, and Lisa
Mhm.
thinks I'm crazy.
No, I don't think she's crazy. I understand it. I just I like to get on with things. Like we got
Yeah.
other things to do. We gotta decorate. So let's
Yeah.
no, I really enjoy when you've done the first rise and then it's just like all puffing
Mm,
up. And then you
it
take
should be.
the towel off or the plastic off and you're just like you can smell it and
Mm,
then you can go and it
Yeah.
just
Oh,
like
yeah.
oh this big
mm.
wave of aroma
Mhm.
comes over and it's so nice. Queen Amman, if you have never had
Oh,
Queen
yum.
Amman, the dough for Queen Amman is one of the most, it's Kouign.
Oh, you have to start that again.
Write it down, Erin.
Go up, Ben.
Kouign.
Kouign. Okay.
And then the second word is Amman. And it is
Okay.
a yeasted pastry, a yeasted um, puff pastry
Mm.
that is
Okay.
amazing, like to die for. And I have made that exactly twice in my life, and that dough is one of the most amazing, most fragrant, most
Mm.
beautiful doughs I've ever worked with.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
might be just a lot of sugar in it all, but it's so worth it. It's so good.
Sugar and butter. Yeah.
Ah,
Very,
There were
very
some amazing um, juniper
Mm.
berry sugar buns that I made,
oh
and
my
it was
goodness.
like this beautiful, squishy, soft dough that you sliced thin bits of butter in and
mm.
then rolled and folded and rolled and folded and
Oh,
then let rise. And then you rolled out this big sheet and it was all this juniper berries and
Oh,
sugar and rolled up and baked. I almost made that at Christmas again this
oh,
year
sounds
because
amazing.
that
it
sounds so
is
good.
fantastic. It
Very
came
good.
from a Norwegian baking book,
Oh,
and all of the recipes in there stretch my baking skills a little bit further every time I try something new, but
Oh,
with great reward because the
oh,
flavors, there's a lot of forage stuff in there, and I always get
yeah.
a kick out of that. And yeah, that dough is fun to play with.
Oh, that sounds so good.
so good.
I
I'm
think
Mhm.
hungry and I need to bake bread now.
I'm
yeah, right
sorry.
now. I think the reason I brought up the Queen Amman is because the last time I tried to make an enriched dough, I was Chris was trying to fix my KitchenAid because of course I burnt out another KitchenAid. So I was trying to do it by hand, but the enriched doughs with the milk and the
Mm,
butter in there.
it's
No
stuff. Yeah.
way, I'm not doing that by hand. Are you kidding me? Because it's just like it's
Yeah. It's too
everywhere.
that
Can't work it
enriched.
enough.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Enriched doughs, always use the
Okay,
KitchenAid. So
good. I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But regular doughs, I usually will just knead just because it's good.
All right.
Sure.
Mhm.
Next
All
one.
right. Cakes or pastries?
Ooh, pastries.
Yeah, pastry.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of pastry?
Oh, I would do like a pan au chocolat, just something
Mm,
Mm.
like
I like,
simple.
I was gonna
mm,
say the one with the almond cream
In
in the
the
middle.
almond croissants?
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, those are
So
really
good.
nice. Yeah,
Or
Hmm.
a good cinnamon bun, if that
Mm,
falls under pastry too.
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
right
Mm.
there.
yeah. Yep. It all
Cinnamon
works.
buns are,
Oh,
yes, amazing. I like to put salted caramel in my cinnamon buns. That's very yummy.
Sounds
oh,
good.
yum.
All right, moving on. Sweet or savory?
It's
Ah,
changing over time, but I still think sweet.
I
Yeah.
think,
I
yeah.
crave savory foods more often, like good
Mm,
savory foods, not just like a bag of chips, but
Yeah.
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 Sweet.
Yeah.
I
Sweet.
think, yeah. I don't
Wow.
want to spend the time to make it, but
Mm,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
would eat it. Like
yeah.
especially good quality
Yeah.
sweets.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mm,
yeah.
any
If you're
day.
if you're gonna
Yeah.
have something, make it
Mhm.
Good.
So I think when we do our cross-country tour, we'll stop and visit with you guys, and we are savory all the way for what we like to eat. So you guys can cook
What?
something
Yeah.
for us, and we will bake something for you.
Yes.
Why do I feel
Yes.
so shocked by this?
Give me a bag of cheesies, and I am in heaven.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
no,
not
no,
a
no, no.
And meat.
Oh.
I like everything savory. I
Mm,
prefer savory. Yeah. So when I get to bake something savory, then I get really excited.
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You made those Korean buns,
Yeah.
didn't
Mhm.
you? I
Yeah,
came
we both
across
Oh,
that
did them.
recipe
yeah.
because I print things out and I haven't done that yet,
You
but
should definitely
Yes,
try that.
very, very
Those
good.
so
I'm
good.
watching the cooking class, the Black Spoon, White Spoon Korean cooking
Oh,
on Netflix.
oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, I haven't seen that either.
But
It's
now I
so many different and interesting ingredients, and
Mm.
it makes me crave all the savory foods. So if you're gonna
Mhm.
watch it, make sure you have that bag of Cheetos. Yeah.
will
Pass
do.
on the Cheetos, but you can have my Cheetos.
No, you have a few other vices.
Something.
Yeah, but you always have popcorn twists for me when I
I
come to
do
visit
because you
you, which
like
is
them.
very sweet.
But
I mean,
like
not sweet,
a
savory.
pita chip and hummus.
Oh.
That's kind of my
Oh,
go-to snack.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's good, healthy stuff.
Hmm.
All right,
Oh, all right.
chocolate. What?
Oh, is this mine or yours?
Are you
I
gonna
lost
say,
it.
okay, chocolate, white, milk, dark, or some other kind of chocolate?
Dark.
Really?
Hmm.
Okay.
I don't think
Mm.
white chocolate is actually chocolate.
Oh no. Okay. Interview over.
Oh no, friends
She,
off. We
she
cannot be
gets
friends
Uh-oh.
so
anymore.
she gets so
Heather,
stuck on this thing
we were
about
getting
white.
along so well.
White chocolate is not really chocolate. But you can get white chocolate that has cocoa butter in it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Then I would consider that to be actually
There's
chocolate.
some
But
really
most white chocolate is just candy.
no, but
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
Maybe I haven't had the good stuff.
that there you go.
That's very
White
possible.
chocolate that's made with cocoa butter is absolutely delicious.
Mhm.
Okay.
Just
Erin,
saying.
Erin, what's your choice of chocolate?
Probably like milk chocolate. I like something with nuts and raisins in it. I don't like just a plain chocolate. I kind of like
Oh yeah, so
the
the
fruit and
Something
nut
fruit and nut.
with
bars.
some
Hmm.
texture.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I like milk chocolate. I don't love the fruit and nut because I'm not big on nuts in anything. But yeah, I do enjoy milk chocolate most of all. And I guess Christina likes white chocolate.
White chocolate. But if I'm gonna have like a dark, like I'll have a dark chocolate, but it's got to have some texture for me.
Mm.
And it has to be frozen. Like it's got to be cold. I don't
Oh.
like room temperature
Warm.
chocolate. Yeah. Yeah. If I'm gonna
Whoa.
have like dark chocolate or milk chocolate, yeah,
Hmm.
it's got to be cold
Hmm.
for some reason. And I think for me, it's got to have that crunch factor. So one of my
Mm.
favorite is the Lindt caramel one.
Mm.
It's sea salt caramel, I
Oh,
think. It's
Yes,
yeah,
got
the
like the
yeah.
dark.
crunchy toffee
I
bits in
like
it.
that one a lot. That's really good.
There's
Yeah.
always a few bars in my freezer, FYI.
I
Oh,
went to the store and they have a lint store and they have
Yeah.
all this bulk Lindor in all these flavors that I've never heard of before. Pistachio Lindor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
oh,
yeah, there's
yum.
some co coconut,
Ah.
cocoa latte, mandarin,
Hmm.
blood orange, like all of these. So I had to buy a whole bunch and I have been working really hard on not eating them. But yeah, strawberry. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's tiramisu. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very exciting. My
Very cool.
daughter and I were like, "Oh, let's get some of this one. We'll get some of this one." Anyway,
Yep.
that's the kind of chocolate that I like.
We went and did that when my grandma turned 80.
Oh
We went
yeah?
and bought 80 chocolate lint balls and we went to the store and we picked out like a whole array
Fun.
of them and
So
yeah,
much fun.
Nice.
so
Ugh,
fun. I really want to go back.
Yeah.
very tasty. Very, very
So
tasty.
good.
Mm-mm-mm. All right,
All
moving
right.
on.
Next one. speaking of breads, do you prefer yeasted breads or sourdough? Again, I think I have
For
a,
Joe the second.
yeah, rest in
Hmm.
peace.
That's a tough choice. I will eat almost any kind of bread.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love bread, flatbread,
Yes.
uh, big fluffy white bread,
Mm,
sourdough bread. Probably sourdough, I would say, is like in the top
Yeah.
for
I will
sure.
always pick a sourdough if it's like the option if I'm making a
Hmm.
Hmm.
sandwich
Hmm.
out
yeah.
somewhere where they have bread options. So I think I'll go with sourdough.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
You
love
cannot go
sourdough.
wrong. I agree with you, Heather. I
Yeah.
think there is no such thing as bad bread
No.
at
Mm-mm.
all. It's
Yeah,
all so good.
that's what we said when we did our episode with Larry.
Larry.
No, no breading bad. No bad breading.
No bad bread.
I think
Nope.
Breaking bread bad.
Just the
There
moldy
could,
stuff.
yeah, there could
Yeah,
be
right.
that is bad.
That's bad.
there could be poorly baked bread.
That's
Mm.
That's
true.
true.
But even if it like when we were doing the sourdough, I remember Larry saying to us like, "Look, if it doesn't turn out, it probably still is going to taste good.
Yeah, just
And
does.
it for
So
sure
don't worry
does.
about it. Like
Yeah.
just keep going, right? Just eat it
Especially if you
and keep
toast
going."
it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, he has a little bit of that fly by the seat of his pants because I think because he's done it so much. But
Mm.
that was difficult for Christina. She wanted to weigh the ingredients like to the gram, and he's like, "Oh, can go over." She's like,
No, he can't.
No.
What's the point of weighing an ingredient then if you're not actually going to take it to where it needs to go? If it says 100 grams, it's
Hmm.
100 grams.
101, 102.
I am right with you there. I
Thank
am
you.
strict
Thank
on
you.
Kind of
that
thought you
scale.
would be.
But you guys, what about like with altitude? I think you guys are at sea level. We
Mhm.
are like
Ah, a
in the
Oh,
kilometer up.
foothills.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
makes a difference.
it would.
And
Yeah.
Larry probably has mastered it where he lives
yeah.
in
Mhm.
Edmonton, but it's like sometimes following the recipe,
Hmm.
I'm like, why is this so wet? It's supposed to be like I have this recipe, a pizza crust that has quinoa in it that you cook. So
Ooh,
cooked quinoa
yeah.
into the dough. It's fantastic. It has a great
Yum.
texture to it.
I
It's kind of
bet.
extra crunchy. It's got protein. It's really good. The family always loves it. And it says you will not need any more than 4 cups of flour. It's like a big, you make 2 big kind of pizzas out of it.
Mhm.
And I always need more flour. I'm like,
Mm.
why? Don't say stuff like that in
Yeah.
your recipe because the first few times I made it, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like this feels wrong. I shouldn't be going over the 4 cups.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now I know. Just keep
Yeah.
going because I don't know if it's the altitude, but I suspect there's something
Mhm.
going on with that.
Yeah.
Probably.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes some sense. I
Yeah.
wouldn't know how to adjust for that, so it's good that you figured it out.
Just
Mhm.
keep go.
That and
That's
flour,
me though.
Throw it
That's
that
in
and
till
me,
it
flour
right?
feels right.
texture.
Yeah.
The texture of your flour, like how
Mm.
absorptive it is, and
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
that can really vary.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
True. Okay. Croissants or scones? Scones or scones or scones?
Maybe that should have been the this, there,
I
that.
was like, what?
Those are
Scones or
scones.
scones.
Croissant,
Oh,
Mm.
that's a
With
tough
the almond
one.
in the middle.
almond in the middle,
Mm.
But a good,
80%.
but a
sliced open
good
with some butter on it.
scone.
There's not enough butter in the croissant
Of
itself.
course
You
not.
need to also add extra butter.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
I don't think I could choose one of those. I think
Huh?
a good scone with like,
Mm.
I don't know. I,
What's your favorite type of scone?
Yeah.
mm, I don't, just vanilla. Like
Okay. So just
I've
Oh, yeah,
made
those
them and they
little
were so
guys were
good with like
good.
vanilla bean.
oh, like the little
So good.
Starbucks
Yeah.
has those
Yeah.
little
Oh, yeah,
vanilla
yeah, yeah,
beans.
yeah.
They're actually really tasty, actually.
And I
Yeah.
made them for an episode when I made vanilla for the
Hmm.
podcast, and then I made the
Ooh.
scones with them. So good. And then I was like, oh, now I'm like a little
Those
obsessed
were
with
really good.
scones.
And they're a lot easier to make than croissants.
Yeah.
That's for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, if I have to bake it, for sure I'm gonna jump on team scone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I've never made a croissant. Have you, Erin? No.
Nope.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing you ladies have.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
I've made them a few times, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things actually for 2025. I want to get
Hard.
more into laminated doughs and just experimenting with those a little bit more. So
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Do you have
hopefully
like
Good on you.
a baking do list for
I
2025?
have a long baking list of like a long laundry list of stuff, but I'm trying to get off of like I'm trying to cut down on sugar to some
Mm,
extent as well. So I'm going to focus more on like savory and stuff, and laminated doughs lends itself really
yeah,
well to doing things on the savory side.
true.
And
Yeah.
plus I'm a sucker for croissants. I mean, when I was on the cruise, I had at least one, sometimes two a day because they were just so good. And now I'm on like croissant withdrawal. So
I
Yeah.
bet.
yeah,
Mm.
Oh, they don't count when you're on vacation. It's
Nope.
okay.
No.
yeah, yeah. Tell my
Yeah,
scale that.
that does not matter. Scale is just a number, and you
Right?
Yep.
straight back to Pilates, so you're all good.
Yeah, will
And you
do.
enjoyed yourself, which is the
I
most
did.
important.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was good. That was the nice thing.
good.
But a croissant a day, I could get used to that.
Oh yeah.
I
Good.
would do that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
All right. I think this is yours. Is this yours?
Nope,
This is
because I
mine?
said scone
Okay.
scones.
Oh, all right. Shoe or macarons?
Oh, shoe.
Yeah.
To make?
Or to
Well,
eat.
Either one.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Have I eaten shoe? What is that?
Like
I
Cream
feel like
puff.
I don't know what
Cream
that is.
cream puff is
cream
a shoe
puffs.
pastry or long
Oh,
johns or
Yeah.
oh, I made
eclairs.
those
Gougères.
gougere. I made those gougere that one time.
Yes, those are,
That's
I
The
love little
okay. That was
gougere.
shoe.
I made a what was that? Churro that was
Is
like
that
a
a
shoe
shoe?
paste.
Oh, yeah.
It
Okay.
was it wasn't the normal way of or the traditional way of making like a fried one. It was a baked one, and it was very much like a shoe pastry
Ooh, I love
and
churros.
rolled in sugar, and it was
Nice.
pretty damn good for a
Super.
non-fried
It was
churro.
very
And
good.
and was it just regular baked or like air fryer baked?
Just regular oven baked.
Oh, okay. I've got to
Oh,
try.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
I want to try that one too.
yes.
Yeah. That's
Yum.
good.
All right. Interviewing guests or being interviewed?
I think I
Hmm.
prefer to be interviewed. It's kind of fun not to have to think about what's the next question, really.
Yeah, I
Just,
kind of like going back for the ride.
That's great. I know we had so much fun when we were guests on your podcast. It's really nice to see it from the other
Mm.
perspective, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Really
Are
fun.
we was ours the only podcast you've been guests on
Mhm.
so far?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
that's kind of
Yes.
fun.
You guys have an exclusive.
Oh, I'm gonna use that when I
We're gonna
promote
use that.
Mhm.
First time ever on a podcast.
Yes. Yeah. All right. And
Yeah.
now
Now
the
the
big
final
question.
question. This is the really important one where there may or may not be a little bit of judging, but that's okay. We
Can't
got
wait to
past
see
the
what
white
this is.
chocolate one,
You already judged
so
them on the white
that's
chocolate.
okay. All right. Butter tarts with
Ooh,
raisins or without raisins?
Yes,
prefer
raisins and
preferably
pecans.
with, yeah.
Two with?
Raisins and pecans and raisins. All right.
I would take a butter tart with raisins, without raisins, with nuts, without nuts. I will eat them whichever way someone wants to make them for me.
There you
Hmm.
go.
Okay, that's a really
If I
good
make them, I put raisins.
idea. So is that your resting judging face there, Christina?
Nope, it's an active judgment face.
Are you a raisin hater? Are you one of those
I'm
people?
not a raisin hater.
She
I
is.
just
She
no,
is.
nope, because I feel like raisins belong in bread, oatmeal raisin cookies. And that's about it.
Oh,
And chocolate bars.
Definitely not chocolate bars.
Fruit and nut bars.
No.
Hmm.
not my favorite either, the fruit and nut bar.
No.
But I like raisins in most things.
I love glacette raisins,
Oh,
Mm, me
yes.
too.
but no glacette peanuts for me.
Oh,
Just the raisins because I'm not big on nuts. And I
oh yes.
probably, it's weird though, because I was going to say it probably goes back to when I had braces, but you wouldn't want to be eating raisins when you have
Yeah.
braces either. So I
Yeah.
don't know. But I
That's
like
a tough
raisins
one.
in my butter tarts. I don't really like butter tarts, but Yeah, the one that I
Ooh.
had that was not a Safeway butter tart, that was actually made in a bakery that had raisins in it, was very, very delicious. So, yeah.
Okay, you almost were judged by all three of us when you said you didn't like butter tarts, I
Well,
think.
we realized that that was why I thought
Hmm.
I didn't like butter tarts, was because literally we would have like a 6 pack of Safeway butter tarts
Oh,
at Grandma's house. So they had probably been sitting around for a while.
Oh,
oh dear.
Oh,
I
So that
think
was
they
my experience.
I think they must be homemade.
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or like at a
Have to
nice
be. Yeah.
bakery.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have a recipe in there's a cookbook called Eat Alberta First
Hmm.
that I've cooked many things out of and baked, and it's got great recipes. And there's a recipe in there for butter tarts with Bing cherries. So each tart has
Oh,
a
yes.
cherry on top. And I've been
Nice.
every year I'm like, well, past couple of years I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I got to make those butter tarts, and I still have not, because to me that's a Christmas
Yeah.
bake, butter
Mm.
tarts. And I
Yes.
still have not made it, and I'm very curious what it's like to put a cherry in the butter tart. I'm not
Oh.
sure how I will like it, but at some point I'm going to get to making those.
So
That
a
sounds good.
fresh Bing cherry or
Yes,
a
I
dried
believe
one?
so. I
Okay.
believe it's fresh.
I
I
would
have
I
to
could
look at
see
it.
dried cherries in butter tarts. That would
Hmm.
actually be all right. See, for me, it's not
Don't
so much the
understand you.
It's much like a raisin, isn't it?
no, it's
Hmm.
different. It's
Exactly.
Oh,
no, no, no,
That's
no, 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 no,
sort of
no.
where I'm thinking.
It's not a no.
Active
Raisins,
Like
judging.
you can put your currants in there, you can put your
currants
dried
are good.
cherries in there. Why
Nope.
don't you just throw some
Because
other
raisin,
kind of dried fruit in there? But
okay,
don't let
it's
it
a
be a
Chop
grape.
up a
texture.
date.
It is a texture thing. It's a texture thing for me because raisins, like when you bite into them,
Here she goes. She's gonna go,
I'm gonna exactly.
oh no.
"Ange."
That's exactly what it is.
I like
Hmm.
that. I like that part. I like how it
Hmm.
Anyhow, yeah,
is.
but it's a texture thing, and raisins are just there's just a little too much like Lisa. You could do the sound effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Where currants, I'm great with currants in butter tarts. I actually prefer them with currants because they've got,
Oh.
again, a little bit more crunchiness to them, right? There's not as
Mhm.
much to them. And
I
with the
hate the crunchiness.
dried
of currants.
cranberries or dried cherries aren't quite as mushy, I guess,
Yeah,
right? When you take
they're
that first,
less wet inside.
That's
exactly.
true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's what it is for me. It's just the raisins just have a little bit too much mushiness to them.
Too
So you
much
need a
work.
drier raisin.
Exactly, like a currant.
The cherry might not be very dry though. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about the cherry.
Hmm.
But
I love cherries though, so I'd be all over that one. I'm like a huge
Hmm.
cherry,
well,
anything
if
cherry.
you ever try the butter tarts, you'll have to post your experiment.
And try them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun. I've had a blast. Thank you both for coming and joining us. We're going to ask you one last thing. We're not going to call it a baking scrap. So basically, we just want to know for us as novice podcasters, and for you as highly experienced, very, very famous podcasters with huge listening audience. Does that feel
Wow.
good? Please give us a tip or trick for how we can move forward in our podcasting or something that you may have run across that might be valuable for us to know.
Mm.
Hmm.
What do we know, Heather?
I think
Lots.
be open to what comes. So
Hmm.
you, it may be your own idea, or it may be someone who approaches you. It may be an opportunity you hadn't thought of, a collaboration that, comes your way, or that you think maybe I could do that. And I think there have been times for us, like with when we first started inviting guests, that we thought that they'll never
Mm.
they'll never come on. Like we're nobodies, right? Why would they come on our podcast? But let's ask anyways,
Yeah.
because you don't know until you try.
Right.
And then it worked. And we're like, there've been so many times we've been like, oh my God, they said yes. They said yes, they're coming on our podcast. Like, wow.
Yeah.
So I think you'd be open to possibilities and don't, I don't know, I guess try, just try.
Yeah.
Just
That's all you can do.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. That's valuable.
Hmm. I
Erin's going
would,
to think of something technical and like,
oh,
That's okay.
I was gonna say like don't stress too much about like the small things that you
Mm.
can adjust for because we we often see in so many of the different podcasting groups that we belong to online, people that are like, well, how do I get rid of this or how do I alter that? And it's all these like little tiny changes that they're
Yeah.
trying to reform. And I would say like focus on the big picture. Like, for example, we don't have fancy microphones. We're sitting here with Apple
Yeah.
wired earpods or
whatever
Yeah.
they're called.
wired
Yeah.
headphones that have a
Yeah.
microphone
Mhm.
and just the camera on our computer. And we're slowly upgrading over time, but like, don't feel like you have to have the clearest video
It's a good thing.
or stuff like that because I think as long as it's good and entertaining to listen to,
Mhm.
then people are going to overlook some of the sniffles and the clicks that you make as you're talking or what have you,
And the ums and
and the
yeah.
It makes it more real. I think that's part of what I enjoy
Yeah.
listening to the two of you and your podcast is I just feel like I'm just there
Yeah,
in your kitchen
exactly.
with you and thinking through things, like you're talking about the different steps in the recipe and it's not like snap, tap, 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 tap. It's like, oh, and I thought maybe I would do this and I didn't have any of this, so I tried that instead. And it's like real life. And I really like that. And I think that's kind of what we're working on aspiring to as well. It's just that we want to be ourselves.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for that
that
advice.
authenticity, I think, and just being like, yeah, just being ourselves, and this is who we are, and hopefully people are okay with it, and they keep listening,
Even
and
if you don't
you
eat
know,
raisins, I mean, I guess you should just stick with it.
Just, it's
You've come out with it
fine.
now.
You're good enough. You're smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like you.
hmm,
Yeah,
What was that from?
Can't
Some
remember.
show.
don't
I'm
remember.
old.
that
I'm
does
old enough
sound.
to, it was from like,
No, I really
not
like that.
SNL, but like, it was a character
It
on one of
was. I
those
Yes.
comedy
cannot remember.
shows.
And I like and darn it, people like you.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Well,
always somebody will listen.
yeah.
If you're authentically yourself and you're bringing
True.
what you can bring.
Hmm.
And like we've said before, we don't ever claim to be experts
Hmm.
in anything.
Yeah.
We're experiencing, we're sharing our experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can all go and listen to professional chefs and trained
Hmm.
pastry chefs and listen to them talk about baking. And that's amazing because we all learn stuff from them. But you can also learn stuff from people at home
Yeah.
trying things out. And,
Yeah.
so there's a place for everybody.
Yeah, and when you think about it, that's kind of what our villages are all about, right? It's about having a group of people around that you can have conversations with and pick their brains on things and get advice and
Mhm.
and I think that's important. That's how it was, done before, right?
Mhm.
And I think this
Yeah.
having platforms like podcasts available to be able to take it to that next level and share it with a wider audience and bring in more people into that village. I think it's a really cool and
Mhm.
special thing. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's great to be part of that. And it's like I said before, gave us the opportunity to meet you too, which has been our pleasure to connect with you and share podcasts with each other. And I think I think that's it's just what a fun opportunity. So thank you for allowing us to actually do this. This is so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well,
Oh,
thank you
we're
for
just so
having us.
excited that you wanted to talk to us. That's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
we were
It's even
excited that you
it's
wanted to
even
talk to
crazier
us.
when someone wants to talk to us.
It's I totally hear you though, right? Because
Yeah.
it is kind of cool when we reach out, like you same experience you guys have had, right? When you reach out to somebody and they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to be on the show," or people reach out to us and go, "Hey, well,
Hmm.
yes." you know?
All
Oh,
right.
cool.
Well, have an excellent rest of your evening.
Yes.
Mhm.
And thank you again for sharing with us today. And okay, I guess that's our cue.
You
That's
can just
Heather's
edit that
dog.
out.
She's ready for bed. She's
Yeah,
like,
she's,
"Aw."
She lets you know she's ready for bed.
I don't know.
I'm really glad my dogs didn't hear that because they usually go nuts when they hear another dog.
We can
So
set them all off at once.
there's three of them lying here very
Oh,
quietly. So I think
aw.
it's a good time to get while the going's good. So thanks
Exactly.
again
Well,
and
thanks
have a wonderful,
again.
great day.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
so much.
you.
Take
Talk
care.
soon.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was great.
Oh, another fab conversation. And how fun was it? I mean, they interviewed us for their podcast. We then reciprocated, had them on our podcast. Um,
Yes.
so much fun. So great to see how a friendship evolved.
Yes.
A friendship evolved into a podcast. That doesn't sound
It
familiar, does it?
happens, apparently, somehow.
And
Yeah.
that's cool. And how they met through their kids. And I know some of our dearest friends we met through, Josh when he was in preschool,
Yes.
actually. Some of
Yeah.
our closest friends are so we've known them for a long time, and Josh and their son are best
Yeah.
of buddies, and it's really cool,
Yeah.
right? It's just
Yeah.
so nice.
Definitely has been
Those
the case
lifelong
with me too. Yeah. A lot of
friendships.
my
Yeah.
friends. Yeah. So it was lovely to see how interesting to see how different it is. Because back when we had kids, a podcast was not a thing,
No,
right?
at all.
So to think that a friendship could turn into that nowadays, where it definitely was not even something that people would have thought about way back in the day. Because what are you going to do? Like, hey, do you want to pitch a TV show together? Which
For
I think
sure.
we should do. But
Oh,
but anyway, yeah, and I loved that they kind of jumped in and figured out the podcasting world the
yeah.
same way that we
We
had to
kind
do
of have.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they've done really well. And
Yeah.
I love their format and being able to hear all about the things that they have cooked and then
Mhm.
the possibility of trying them ourselves too.
Yeah, exactly. And they've cooked some really unique, fun things as well. Like one of their latest episodes, they did a braised beef tongue, which for me brought back so many memories because one of my favorite meals when I was growing up was beef tongue.
Me
And
too.
really,
Yeah, who eats that?
not a lot of people, but
I
I
was like, I
did.
loved a cow tongue. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it was amazing. And those, when your mom goes, "Hey, what do you want for your special birthday dinner?" I'd be like, "Can we have some, some beef tongue, some cow tongue?"
And
And
all the vegetarians run screaming from the room.
probably,
Yeah.
right? Or even
Even
non-vegetarians.
you're
I mean, I
right.
think for a lot of people, it's a very acquired taste.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's not something that people really appreciate. And I haven't had it in I don't know how long, right? Just
Yeah,
because
no.
I don't even know where you could. I haven't looked, to be honest with you.
Oh, you haven't.
I haven't really looked for beef
Yeah.
tongue. And nor do I think I even know how I would prepare it because my mom just did it so beautifully.
Mhm.
And yeah, and it was so tender and so good.
Yeah.
So good.
I
So
really,
I'm
really
actually
enjoyed it.
excited to possibly try that.
Hey,
Um,
should we do that when I'm over? And should we
we have to find some beef tongue first. So, but I'm
see if
sure
we
we
can
could
find
find a
some beef
picture.
tongue and then
Mhm.
we can find
Try-
their episode
Yes,
and
try
learn
it
how
out.
to prepare it.
I think that would be really cool. And
And maybe we'll love it and maybe we'll hate it. But either way, it'll be a fun
yeah, because I think psychologically, I think it might be a bit more challenge to eat
now.
now,
Yeah,
right?
especially as podcasters who use our tongues so much for
Maybe, I don't know. And I think as a kid, and being Portuguese, we always ate some different things,
yeah,
right?
different from
Um,
what everybody
and,
else was
and
eating.
it was just what it was, right? That's what we did. We ate a lot of seafood, and I didn't have a lot of my friends because we lived in landlocked Okanagan Valley, right?
Mhm.
So, access to fresh, we didn't grow up on the coast,
Yeah.
right? So access to like really fresh fish just didn't happen. But they used to have this guy who used to come with frozen seafood on
Mhm.
a fairly regular basis. And my parents used to stock up their freezer with like crab and lobster and scallops
Oh,
and clams and all sort mussels
wow.
and sorts of things, right? So we were always eating that kind of stuff, which is different from what a lot of other people did.
Mhm.
Somehow, oh, and we had our cow, like we raised cows to, like we always had a cow that we got as a young calf and
Oh,
raised it. And then, that's how we had access to beef tongue.
wasn't that hard on you as a kid?
You know, we
I
had
think that
chicken.
that part would be harder, like knowing that that was your cow that you
Yeah,
raised
you
to
know
bake.
what? Again, I think we didn't look at it that way. Like it was just weird. Like we just didn't
I'm
grow up
glad you
with
were a farm
that
girl.
was, yeah, I was farm
Yeah,
girl. Yeah, I guess farm girl, but we had more orchard, like fruit
yeah,
orchard rather than like animal
yeah,
farm. But we did have like chickens. So we had farm fresh eggs and we had chickens that we would, that would be slaughtered
yeah,
and we have, that was our chicken protein source.
yeah.
We had goats for a while, which I didn't appreciate back then,
Mhm.
how much I appreciate like goat milk these days, right?
Yeah.
So all of that kind of stuff. My mom used to make her own cheese, and so it was great. That's how my dad was a dairy farmer,
Oh, wow.
growing up, right? So that was when he was back in Portugal. That was his family business, was a dairy farm.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's really
So
cool.
anyway,
Well,
yeah.
let's do that. And then we will tell them all about it. We'll tell Heather and Erin how we decided to do this together because of them.
Yes, I know. Isn't that cool? Like I
Yeah,
hadn't thought about it for years, to be
me
honest.
either.
So until I saw
100%. But
the
as soon as you said braised beef tongue, I was like, oh, yum.
yes,
Yeah.
I know, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
very
sorry for
strange.
digression there with like the whole history, family history.
Hey, I'm happy with it. I'm excited to hear our episode with them that
Hmm.
they did on
A
their
little nervous.
Yeah, to be honest, a little nervous. So, whether you are somebody who has found us here because of listening to the Three Kitchens podcast and finding us somewhat entertaining, we're really grateful that you're here. Or if you are someone who finds the Three Kitchens podcast because of this episode here, we are encouraging both of you to keep tabs on both of us
For
on the
sure.
Three Kitchens podcast and the Baking Scraps podcast. And hopefully you'll find something that you love.
Yes, for sure. So go follow them and tune into their episodes.
Mhm.
And yeah, enjoy a few more conversations about food. How can you go wrong?
What could be better? Wine,
Wine is a good thing. In
sometimes.
moderation.
Yes, in moderation.
Everything in moderation.
Mhm.
Baking in moderation.
Baking tongue.
Tongue in moderation.
I think we got to stop while we're ahead.
Exactly.
Okay,
Anyway, thank you if you're still with us.
these poor
Thank you
these
for
poor fans of the Three Kitchens podcast who have come here now because of that, and if they've made it all the way through, they're like, "What is wrong with this woman?
what's
Her
wrong with this.
brain is not working."
It's all good. We like to have a little fun
Yeah,
and we digress a few times.
we do.
And hopefully, like I said, you might still be here. If you're not, we can't blame you.
Yeah, we really can't.
But
Have a great
anyway,
day and happy cooking and happy
happy
baking.
cooking and happy baking as always. Take care.